Hello, and welcome back to the CompassPodcast. I'm Laurie, Lynnsee, and I help women in the second half of life reconnect with themselves so that they can trust their intuition, regulate their nervous system, and live from their own inner wisdom instead of fear, people-pleasing, and self-doubt. Last month, we explored the coherent heart and asked, what happens when we become calm enough to hear ourselves again? This month, we're taking the next step. We're exploring energy, frequency, sound, rhythm, and resonance, and we're asking, what happens when we begin living from our own natural frequency instead of the noise around us? Today's question is the universe speaking in rhythm? Now, I want to be clear here about what I mean, and I'm not suggesting that the universe is literally sending us coded messages through songs, numbers, or vibrations. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I'm not going to make some scientific claims that research cannot support. Instead, I want us to become curious, because when we look closely at the world around us and the world within us, we discover rhythm is everywhere. The rising and setting of our sun, the changing seasons, the tides, the migration of birds, our sleeping and waking, our breathing, heartbeat, music, movement, even the electrical activity happening in our brains right now. So perhaps the universe isn't speaking in words. Perhaps it's expressing itself through patterns, through cycles, through movement, through rhythm. And perhaps our bodies have been listening all along. So long before people understood frequency through physics, they understood rhythm through experience. Early human beings watched the sun travel across the sky. They noticed the moon changing shape. They learned when animals migrated, when to grow plants, and when seasons shifted. Rhythm was not an abstract idea. It helped people to survive. They needed to recognize the rhythm of day and night, the rhythm of planting and harvesting, the rhythm of changing weather, the rhythm of the human body. People also created music long before modern laboratories existed. They clapped, drummed, sang, and danced. They created shared rhythm before they had scientific language to explain why it affected them. And this makes me wonder, did we create rhythm? Or did we recognize something that was already there? Maybe music feels so natural to us because we're already rhythmic beings. Before we could speak, you heard the voice of your mother. Before you understood language, you experienced tone. Before you took your first breath, you lived beside the beating heart of your mother. Rhythm may be one of the first forms of information you encountered. So let's pause and define a few words, because these words are often used interchangeably, even though they don't mean exactly the same thing. Let's start with vibration. Vibration is repeated movement back and forth. Frequency tells us how often that repeating movement occurs within a period of time. For sound, frequency is commonly measured in hertz, meaning cycles per second. A lower frequency sound is generally perceived as lower in pitch, and a higher frequency sound is generally perceived as higher in pitch. Rhythm describes a pattern of events occurring through time. Resonance occurs when a system responds especially strongly to a particular frequency. Now, none of that is mystical. It's all physics. But these scientific words are also used more loosely in everyday conversation. You might hear people say, I'm trying to get back into the rhythm of my life, or this environment doesn't resonate with me, or we're not on the same wavelength. Those phrases are metaphors. These aren't measurements made with scientific instruments, but they help us describe real human experiences. The important thing is to recognize when we are discussing measurable physical phenomena and when we're using the language symbolically. Both can have meaning. They simply aren't the same claim. So let's start with our old friend Einstein. Albert Einstein is often included in conversations about energy and vibration. His work fundamentally changed the way physicists understood space, time, matter, light, and energy. His famous equation, E equals mc squared, represents a relationship between mass and energy, and it helps establish that mass and energy are not entirely separate categories, but can be understood as related physical qualities. But we should be careful here. Einstein's work did not mean that every thought creates a physical reality simply because thoughts have energy. It does not scientifically prove manifestation, and it does not tell us that positive emotions vibrate at a measurable spiritual frequency. Those are interpretations people have added later. What Einstein's work does invite us to recognize is that the physical universe is far less static and simple than it appears. The chair beneath you right now seems still. Your body is at rest and may appear still. But at a microscopic level, physical systems involving ongoing interactions and motion are happening. The universe is not a collection of lifeless objects simply sitting in space. It's dynamic. That idea alone is extraordinary, and you do not need to exaggerate the science for it to inspire wonder. Nikola Tesla is another name that often regularly appears in the discussion of energy, frequency, and vibration. Tesla was an inventor and electrical engineer whose work with alternating currents, high-frequency electricity transformers, and resonant electrical systems helped shape modern electrical technology. So you know when you plug something into the wall? That's Tesla. In his experience, resonance was practical, not merely philosophical. Electrical currents could be tuned so that their natural oscillation worked together. Tesla's experimental notes documented his attention to oscillation, tuning, and resonant relationships between circuits. There's a popular quote often attributed to Tesla: "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Now, the sentiment fits the way people remember Tesla, but I've not found any reliable primary source confirming that he actually said those words. So I don't want to present that as a verifiable quotation. What we can say is Tesla devoted a significant portion of his work to electrical oscillation and resonance. He understood that when systems are properly tuned, their response becomes much stronger, and that gives us a helpful metaphor. Not proof of a spiritual law, a metaphor. What are you repeatedly tuning yourself towards? Constant urgency, conflict, fear, other people's expectations, or environments and practices that help you feel grounded, clear, and fully present? Unlike an electrical current, a human being cannot be reduced to one measurable frequency. But we are influenced by repetition. We develop patterns. Our bodies adapt to the universe we inhabit. The language of tuning can help us notice those patterns without pretending that Tesla proved something about the human soul. So rhythm is woven into biology. Our bodies operate according to the circadian rhythm. It's roughly a 24-hour pattern that influences sleeping, waking, hormones, temperature, metabolism, and other biological processes. The Nobel Prize for physiology or medicine was awarded to Jeffrey C. Hall, Michael Robish, and Michael W. Young for discoveries explaining molecular mechanics that control circadian rhythms. Their research helped show how living organisms synchronize internal biological clocks with the daily cycle created by the Earth's rotation. Whoa! Think about what that means. Your body does not simply react to each moment as though it never experienced time before. It anticipates, it cycles. It keeps time internally. And these rhythms are influenced by light, activity, eating, sleeping, and the environment around us. We also see rhythms at larger scales. The Earth rotates, the Moon orbits, ocean tides rise and fall. Seasons change because of the Earth's orbit, and the axis tilts. Plants respond to cycles of light and darkness. Animals migrate, hibernate, reproduce, and feed according to recurring environmental patterns. Nature is never truly motionless, but it is not always rushing either. A wave advances and then retreats. A tree grows and rests. The sun appears and disappears from our view. Life includes activity and recovery, expansion and contraction, sound and silent. We often want only one half of the rhythm. We want productivity without rest, giving without receiving, certainty without questioning, growth without discomfort. But nature doesn't work that way. Rhythms require movement between states. A heartbeat is not one continuous contraction. Breathing is not one endless inhale. Music is not one unbroken note. Life needs space. Music may be one of the clearest ways we experience frequency and rhythm directly. A piece of music begins as vibration. Something moves, a string, a vocal cord, a drum head, a column of air. That movement creates pressure waves. Those waves travel through the air and reach the ear. The auditory system transforms that physical information into neural signals. Then the brain begins the remarkable work of organizing sound into pitch, rhythm, melody, expectation, emotion, and memory. Daniel Levitin, a scientist and a musician, has spent decades studying music perception, memory, and the brain. His research helps explain why music is not processed only by one isolated area. It draws upon networks involving attention, memory, emotion, timing, and movement. Music can also affect our bodily experience. Research reviewed by Levinstein and colleagues have examined music's relationship with stress response, immune markers, social bonding, and emotional regulation. The findings are promising. Although responses depend on the person, the music, and the context, music is not a universal prescription in which one song produces the same effect for everyone. And we already know from this experience, one person relaxes when listening to classical music, and another person becomes restless. One person feels restored by the sound of rain, and another associates it with fear. A song that makes you feel free may remind someone else of a painful time. Sound enters the ears, but meaning is created through the entire person. Our memories, associations, culture, perceptions, and current emotional state. That's why your response matters. Not because your response proves a universal energetic truth, but because it gives you information about yourself. Consider these questions. What sounds settle my body? What music helps me feel more present? What sounds increase tension inside of me? What song connects me with a part of me that I had almost forgotten? Your answers may change. The music you needed 5 years ago may not be the music you need today. Your inner world has rhythm too. Let's talk next about the heart. Your heartbeat is another rhythm, but is not as mechanically regulated as many people imagine. A healthy heart usually has subtle variations in the time between beats. This is known as heart rate variability. The pattern changes as the nervous system responds to breathing, movement, emotion, exertion, rest, and the environment. When you inhale, the heart often increases slightly, and when you exhale, it decreases slightly. Breath and heart rhythms are in an ongoing conversation. This doesn't mean that your heart is broadcasting emotions to the entire universe. It means that your cardiovascular system and your nervous system are responding and are interconnected. Once again, the scientific reality is already beautiful. Your body is listening to itself. It's adjusting continuously. It is seeking balance, not a frozen state, which nothing ever changes, but the capacity to respond and recover. Perhaps that is a more grounded way to understand resonance in our lives. Not permanently calm, not feeling positive all the time, not avoiding difficult emotions, but becoming able to move through difficult states without permanently losing contact with ourselves. But you know what? Not every rhythm is nourishing. That drip, drip, drip of your faucet, well, it has a rhythm. And the flashing alarm has a rhythm. Chronic stress can create patterns. So can worry. So can repeatedly checking a phone. So can waking up every morning and immediately absorbing everyone else's needs. Repetition alone does not make something healthy. This is why frequency matters. Not as a spiritual ranking system in which some people are high vibration and others are low vibration. That kind of language can become dismissive. Sadness does not make your spirituality inferior. Anger does not mean you have failed. Grief is not a vibration you need to escape as quickly as possible. Every emotion carries information. And the more useful question is, what patterns am I repeatedly living inside? And what are they doing to me? Are you living in a rhythm of constant interruption? A rhythm of apologizing? A rhythm of anticipating everyone else's reaction? A rhythm of saying yes before checking what that actually means and if you really want it? A rhythm of pushing through exhaustion? Those rhythms can become so familiar that they feel like your personality. But familiar does not mean natural. Sometimes what we call who I am is actually a pattern we have learned in order to stay safe, accepted, and needed. Your natural rhythm may be underneath that pattern, waiting to be heard. So, is the universe speaking in rhythm? Scientifically, we can say that rhythmic and oscillating processes appear throughout physical and biological systems. We can observe them, we can measure them, we can study how they interact. But science cannot tell us whether the universe has an intention behind those rhythms. It cannot determine whether a wave, a melody, or a coincidence contains a personal spiritual message for you. That question belongs to philosophy, spirituality, and individual meaning. And I believe we can honor both. We can remain scientifically honest while still allowing ourselves to feel awe. We can say, I know this sound is produced by a physical vibration. and it also touches something deeply meaningful within me. And we can say, I understand the ocean tides have a physical explanation, and standing beside the ocean still helps me remember who I am. And we can also say, I cannot prove that the universe is speaking directly to me, but I can pay attention to what is awakening inside of me when I become quiet. Curiosity does not require certainty. Wonder does not require exaggeration. And spirituality does not have to compete with science. Perhaps the universe is not asking us to decode it. Perhaps it's inviting us to participate, to breathe, to move, to listen, to rest, to notice when we are in harmony with ourselves and when we are continuously overriding our own needs. Frequency matters in physics because it helps determine how systems behave. It matters in music because it contributes to pitch and tone. It matters in biology because timing and reoccurring cycles help organize life. And metaphorically, it matters in our own personal lives because what we repeatedly experience shapes us. The conversations we replay, the media we consume, the pace we maintain, the people we spend our time with, the sounds around us, the stories we tell ourselves. These become part of the rhythm of our days, and the rhythm of our days eventually become the rhythms of our life. This doesn't mean you can control every environment or remove every difficult experience. It means you can begin noticing what you are constantly tuning towards. You can create small moments that interrupt an unhealthy rhythm. One slower breath, one morning without immediately reaching for your phone. One song that brings you back to yourself. One honest no. One walk outside. One moment of silence before answering someone. Our decisions are made from our own inner wisdom rather than fear. That's how a rhythm changes. Not always through one dramatic transformation, often through one small beat, repeated differently. I always like to make sure that I give credit to the research and the researchers for each podcast. So, these are the primary researchers and the historical figures that supported this episode. First, we have Albert Einstein and his work in mass and energy, relativity, dynamic nature of physical reality. And then we have Nikola Tesla, and he worked with just plugging that cord into the wall, that electrical oscillation, the alternating currents, the tuned circuits, and resonance. Then we have Daniel J. Levitin, and he is involved with music cognition, memory, emotion, timing, and how music engages the brain and body. And then we have Jeffrey C. Hall, Michael Robash, and Michael W. Young, and they studied molecule mechanisms regulating circadian rhythms, and they were awarded the 2017 Nobel Peace Prize. So before we finish, I'd like to leave you with a few questions. What rhythms are shaping my life right now? Which of these rhythms feel natural to me? And which have I absorbed from the noise around me? What sounds, environments, and practices help me soften? Where am I being asked to slow down, pause, or create more space? And finally, what is one small rhythm I could choose this week that would help me return to myself? Maybe it's beginning each morning with 3 intentional breaths. Maybe it's listening to music while you prepare dinner. Maybe it's stepping outside and noticing the movement of the trees. Maybe it's turning off the noise for 5 minutes and allowing silence to become part of your song. You don't have to discover the rhythm of the entire universe. You only need to become quiet enough to recognize the rhythm that belongs to you. So thank you for joining me for this episode of the Inner Compass Podcast. Throughout August, I will continue exploring sound, vibration, resonance, and the ways our bodies respond to the world around us. Until next time, keep listening, keep trusting, and remember, awaken, remember, rise.